The intention of this episode is to really speak to those who are feeling brokenhearted since the election results here in America. For those of you who were very happy with the election results, by all means, you too can listen in if you have the curiosity in your spirit and you want to know why maybe some hearts are breaking. If you want a window into some of the real human stories of what happens and is happening on the other side, this would be a place for you to stay not in defensiveness or in trying to override, but rather with a surrendered curiosity for someone else's lived experience. Because today is not a debate about sides or parties, it's about humanity. And for those of you listening in, not in the US, I know that it doesn't necessarily mean you need to live here to understand the heartbreak, as I've been hearing from women all around the world, because what we are experiencing in America is not just an American problem. It is a problem across the world and in many places where women and people of color and people on the LGBTQ plus spectrum don't feel seen as fully human. And so, for those of you abroad listening in from other countries, I'm sure that there are many relatable topics here. But primarily for those of us who are feeling brokenhearted with the election results, I want to share some perspectives. I want to share some hope. I want to share from my humanity and my heart right back to yours. I know that I landed from my magnetic event with the belief and possibility of so much for this world, for the women of this world, for the relationships that they are a part of, for the businesses they run, for the children they are raising, for the sisterhoods that they are a part of, for the communities where they are in leadership. It felt limitless and expansive. And it still does. But what I want to say is there was almost this complete opposite energy and reaction as the election results came in. And the reality that more than half of the American population is not interested in seeing the humanity of all of its people, but rather for a very small few. And so, as someone who's on the front lines doing the work, we would say in some ways, my boots on the ground in the work, hearing from the women whose lives are being impacted by this, hearing from the women who love people like I myself do, that are very terrified of this possible pending outcome and where things are headed for our country. In my family of 6 people, there are only 2 who technically don't feel the direct threat. While they too are mourning and feeling a lot of the profound grief and rage, actually sheer outrage around many of the things that are already being proposed and planned for early January, while all 6 of us in this family are feeling the extreme emotions, there are technically 2 who will be protected under most law, and 4 of us who many of our basic rights are being questioned and threatened and debated. And so I think it is important to be willing to sit down and hear from the real stories, the real people, and the real heartbreak as it relates to simply this election result changing the structure and function of basic human operation and how people are going about their lives, these beautiful, incredible lives, living and thriving, and that feeling like a direct threat to more than 50% of the American population tells me that somewhere along the way, the powers that be told so many stories that were drenched in fear. I talk to so many people who are terrified of transgender people, who are terrified of gay marriages, who are terrified of women deciding what they want to do over their bodies, terrified, angry, and wanting to feel so much control over that. And what I find is so often these same people who are so terrified have based their decisions and their judgments on zero facts, on never actually having met any of the beautiful people that they are claiming are ruining this country. And so my resolve for all of this heartbreak and my way forward is my mission has even become more clear, because while I cannot save an entire country, I cannot save the women of a country, I can offer new ways to reframe how we are living and thinking, because so many women are living in houses that are on fire and they don't even smell the smoke. And so my work is one by one waking women up to detect and smell the toxins in the air so that they can first and foremost save themselves and maybe possibly save so many others that they love around them, because many others around them are also asleep or numb to the toxins because they've been in the air and they've been breathing it entirely too long. So I know that my work and my message will carry on and have an even bigger purpose than I could have ever imagined. And while I'm here for it, there's also something deeply sad that we seem to have slipped so incredibly far backwards. And I know it is because of the direct threat that women and their power pose on small-minded men. I know that they feel the fear and they want to have so much control. You know, my husband and I were talking about this the other morning over coffee, and I said, you know what I think is so painfully sad is that so few men really understand, or have ever witnessed or had a lived experience within their own immediate family or in their own relationship where a woman in her highest power, in her most beautiful, raw, and authentic feminine expression and leadership. I've rarely seen a woman like that not elevate everyone around her. And I know in my own life and our own family and many of our closest friends, where the women are in their highest power and leadership, they elevate everyone around them. My level of functioning in a very non-controlled by a partner way allows me to overflow and serve and give so much to those that I love in a way that is such clear energy and clean energy that gives them all space to optimize and become their greatest versions of self. The most beautiful thing that I know every single human is ultimately looking for is that belonging and that worthiness, that unconditional love. And when we get this divided, we get further away from ever experiencing that. And when we push people away and we tell stories about being afraid of them, when we've never even had any proximity to them to understand and have the experience of the beauty of what is possible, we jump to a story that is not true, riddled with fear, and we make assumptions and poor decisions, very misinformed decisions. We get further and further away from the beauty of what's possible for everyone. And I always found it so fascinating why someone's own self-expression would ever directly threaten yours. And we know that, again, people who are very wounded and operating with a smallness of perspective don't see room for everyone. And often they don't think of the collective, but have a more myopic view and take on how they see the world. And they centralize just themselves. They haven't flexed the muscle of compassion for all of humanity and more beautiful alternatives forward. And as it relates back to couples, heterosexual couples in particular, with men wanting women to be so quiet and invisible and have control over their bodies, I'm so sorry to hear the beauty that those men who made that choice will miss in their lives. You cannot create a profound, ecstatic, orgasmic, next level of harmony in a relationship when you are trying to control someone or something, because they will never be in their full surrender when you have to control their voice, their opinion, their decisions, and their body. So the sadness of that reality, that this decision will cause even more brokenness and loneliness and depression and anxiety inside of the structures that actually believe they're creating something better. The fallout of this will be so profound we won't even fully understand it. It'll be generations after. Those of us who are witnessing now, many of us will be long gone when the ramifications of a decision like this are fully felt. I think about the ways it will affect families, the ways it will affect children that are raised in families like that, and the dangerous behavior that will be learned and absorbed. For those of us who chose the greater good of humanity, I have this to say. While your heart is breaking, let yourself feel it all. Let yourself release the grief and the rage. Let yourself feel it. It will come and go in waves, just like any kind of a loss or a death. There is no linear path. It will catch up with you in times when you are least expecting it. So giving yourself, extending yourself endless compassion to feel the bigness and the fullness of it, to create spaces for yourself to release that grief and rage. It will come back in different expressions, but our job is to keep giving permission to that voice and that expression. So finding safe communities where you can have these moments together to be in the release and the grief. Finding places and spaces where you can speak the truth of your broken heart and you can feel the rage and not be shamed for it. If you don't know where to go for that, reach out to me. I have spaces for that. Safe spaces for women to come and feel the fullness of all that is happening inside of them right now. I also want us to resist staying down. We can get down on the ground and feel the grief and the rage, but our resistance is our refusal to stay there. Never have we ever needed pleasure and joy like we need it now. The patriarchy wins when we stay on the ground. The patriarchy wins when we refuse to find the beauty and the magic in our daily lives, our own connections, our own beautiful art and work in the world. The patriarchy wins when we are so profoundly stuck in our suffering that we cannot do anything else. So while you can grieve and rage and feel it all, refuse to stay down on the ground. Be in communities that will be able to hold the fullness of you, the rage, the grief, and that will encourage you when you are ready to step back into your power and back into your pleasure and your radical joy as resistance. And to take exquisite care of yourself in a time where so many things feel unknown and uncertain. I project that autoimmune diseases will spike for women. Our nervous systems already are wreaking so much havoc prior to this. And now I know that women are feeling completely like they are drowning. I'm hearing from them regularly. So to all of you, I will continue to point you back to pleasure, small doses of pleasure every single day. It doesn't mean that you are turning your back or bypassing the reality of what is happening, but it means you are taking care of yourself so you can stay in this, because we need all of us for the long haul. We need all of the women to stay strong. And I know that we are tired of being strong. And I know that we are tired of constantly having to fight for basic human rights. I know. I feel that. I'm right there with you. And it is heartbreaking that we live in a world where basic rights for women across this world are not there. It is a devastation that it feels unexplainable at times. And I know it is because we continue to allow patriarchal leadership. We do not center the women. We do not center the matriarchal leadership, the way of community. It's about power. It's about ego. It's about who can bang their chest harder and louder, who can claim more land. So while we can feel the full range of this, I want you, as best you can, to turn off the news. I want you to become someone, rather than consuming the messaging that the world is sending you, create. Create beauty, create art, create love, create music, create from activism. Create. We need you. We need your beauty. We need all that you have to give back into this world. Create from the depths of your heartbreak. Keep showing up. Refuse to hide. Refuse to be quiet or still or small. And find sisterhood where we can all be in this together and reminding each other of the power of what is possible. We have a long road ahead of us. And while I will grieve and I will rage and my heart will break, I will also dance and be in my joy and my pleasure and my orgasms and my celebration and such profound love for the people in my life and this beautiful work that I get to do. Stay close. This is a space and a community where everyone's tender hearts have a voice. Let's stay curious. Let's humanize one another. Let's ask about personal stories and how we got to the places and the decisions we got to. I know in my own life, for people who chose differently, while it is very difficult, I am centralizing their humanity so that I can make space to hear them. Because every single one of us has our own lived experiences, has so much history, has childhood traumas, has so much heartbreak and baggage that brought us to this very moment, that brought us to those voting polls where we made the decisions that we made, all based on a childhood into adulthood, based on a belief system of how we see the world and how we believe it functions. We casted our votes based on the ways we were raised and what we did with those stories. So as much as we can, let's continue to be the leaders, even in a time of darkness. Let's grab our lanterns and keep our candles lit as we walk, so that those who feel very lost will know they're not alone and will be able to find someone to come and walk alongside. I love us all so very much. With a broken heart and very steady feet and mission and eyes with clear vision, I will feel it all, and we will continue.